Okay, hi everyone. It's 12 o'clock here in Toronto. I'm Terry Iwasco with WorkTango. I see a lot of familiar names and friends of WorkTango on today's session. Great to see you all and welcome. Today's webinar that will be facilitated by our friends at Culture Crafters is on 3 skills for one-to-one conversations. And we're really excited and happy that all of you got to join today. So with that, we will begin and I'll turn it over to our friends at Culture Crafters.
Hi, thank you so much. We're happy to partner with WorkTango, and I'm excited to share with you all the skills. So 3 tools to have effective one-on-one meetings virtually. WorkTango and we had a lot of meetings thinking like, what is the topic? And knowing that the reality that we're all facing right now, we decided most of us will probably have our one-on-one evaluations remotely and virtually. So I'm going to introduce you to some key skills that you can have to help you have them to be more effective, to have more engagement, and also make it more fun and easy for all of you. I am Anya Romanova. I'm one of the co-founders of Culture Crafters. We deliver virtual trainings. We used to deliver a lot of in-person trainings, not so much anymore, but we help leaders close gaps. And by close gaps, we say like, this is where you are today, this is where you want to be. And we work with teams across the world. We have consultants in different places. And I'm happy to introduce to you one of our virtual trainings and introduce you to a skills lab that we run where we practice the skills. I'm a certified executive coach. I'm a mother of 3 kids, homeschooling them now with my partner here in Toronto. And yeah, I'm excited to spend the next hour with you. I will be using a lot of chat. This is not your regular webinar. And I know I'm guilty myself. I sign up for webinars while I have lunch. The Netflix is on the background. This is not that type of webinar. I really want to invite a lot of participation. I want you to make it valuable in the next hour. I'll be asking questions. We can reflect as a group. We can do some peer learning and learn from each other. So if you are in front of a computer, you're prepping, I will be teaching for a little bit, but I really would love for you to find the chat window. It's usually at the bottom, and participate with us throughout the chat. And I will be commenting. There is also a Q&A window at the bottom. You'll see this is where you can put questions, and I will reply to all the questions you might have at the end of the session. We will be talking about 3 core coaching skills. As I said, we'll talk a little bit about a skills lab and who it's good for, and hopefully we'll have time for Q&A. So one of the first questions I want to ask is, what is your biggest challenge conducting virtual one-on-one meetings? And maybe it's not a performance review yet. Maybe just the meeting that you had with your team members. Someone on your team have asked for a one-on-one. You want to give them feedback. So please go to the chat window and put in just a couple of words. What has been the biggest challenge conducting one-on-ones virtually, remotely on a computer? Network issues. Okay, making a genuine connection with them. Yes, Steve, love it. When and how to initiate the meeting. People are too sensitive. Impersonal, motivating the team. That's great, guys. Keep them coming. I'm sure all of us can resonate with all of them. We've all had network issues. It's hard to connect with people. It's different. It takes much longer to connect. And hopefully today we'll talk a little bit about trust. And if you are interested in building trust, I know next week we're having a whole webinar on how to build trust and psychological safety, because it's a really, really important. Can't use body language as a clue to what might be going on with the other person. Yes, Sharon, totally. Not everyone able or willing to use video. That's another good one to talk about before the meeting. Would they be willing to use video, as it makes it more personal? You can read the energy, you can read their body language. Are not task status and body language is extremely important. Yes, Kavita, I agree with you. Not everyone able or willing. That's awesome. You guys can keep it coming. And again, as I said, like that's how we learn. We all have had all of them. Nadir said, keeping the conversation to what's important to employee rather than focusing on the day-to-day. Yeah, it's like building that rapport, building that connection. Totally. Here's another question. Like, we're going to talk, one of the skills we're going to use today is powerful questions. So that's how we decided to start with it. What beneficial changes have you noticed from conducting meetings virtually? What's been maybe surprisingly good about have them virtually? And again, we might have to dig into like, what is good when we have those meetings virtually? People are in their comfort zone. So it's like, yes, on one side, like maybe people don't feel like it's not personal enough, but then it's like the most personal we've ever been because we're at home. Like it's so vulnerable to turn on a video and be in our house with our children, with our partners, with our pets, with our hair and our roots. I'm sure everybody can resonate with not being able to cut their hair. People don't feel forgotten. They feel engaged. Getting more personal, keying on their personal situation, more empathy. Great, exactly. It's like building that connection. I find like taking the time to really build the connection, as Nadir said, like what's happening in your world? Where are you? Like, I want to see your cat, or be, feel free to invite your kids if they're at home. They're casual, they're more comfy. It does have its downside probably. Getting more personal. Yes, getting to know the team, talk about personal stuff. And I think that's what's going to change the world, right? For so many years, we've been talking about authenticity and bringing your whole self to work. And like right now, it's a perfect time to build trust and those relationships on the team, because we're all getting like way too personal. There's no separation between work and personal. We're in their PJs, or, you can, as I said, you can see the environment around us. Great. We're able to connect with them. I'm glad we guys are all on the same page. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about a paradigm shift. The way we see it, especially like in the coaching world, right, in the leadership development, I think we're moving a little bit from giving direction to actually partnering and collaborating with people. So we have this idea, right? It's like changing from leader on top in all of its senses to leader in the front. Leader on top gives direction. Leader on top tells people what to do. Leader in front has a vision, an idea, and is inviting people to come with him. This is a paradigm shift, because as a manager, as a leader, you will need to like make that shift if you want to, right, succeed in the future. Especially now, we can no longer control, we cannot micromanage. I cannot stop by your office and be like, hey, what are you working on? What are you doing? Like it requires a very different level of trust, right? The environment that we are all in. So I want to ask you again in the chat, what do you think is the difference between coach and manager? And maybe you have had great coaches and great managers in your life. What's the difference? And I see more comments coming. A great leveler. No matter work status, we're all communicating from the same place. No corner office or close to remind us of status. Yeah. And again, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. People don't know, like, how do I talk to you? It's kind of weird to see you in your home environment. Like we see CEOs, we see like, I love the New Zealand leader, right? Who's doing Facebook Lives from like her kitchen in her home. Like that is a whole new paradigm in the world. Manager is for resources, coach is for people. Guiding instead of spoon feeding. Totally. A coach develops your skills so you can accomplish what you feel is important. And yeah, and with that, Steve, right, comes like different level of questions, a different set of questions. And I will demonstrate today how to ask those more coaching questions. Coach creates a safe space and helps you to explore yourself and a situation to get to where you need to be. Yeah, it's a lot of self-reflection. It's helping people see. We always say, coach the person, not the problem. Because it's like, if I keep concentrating on problems, I'll keep helping you solve your problems. Versus like, what is with this person that they're not seeing the connection, the way they're showing up? Like, what's the gap that we need to close? Coach focuses on developing individual skills and growth path. Manager sets the vision and identifies the goal and business initiatives. Yeah, I love it. Also teaching and guiding. Coaching influences, manager manage. Stop at highlighting good versus bad. Yeah, instead of, again, asking questions and digging deeper into the why. And again, by coach, I don't mean a title. Some of you don't have anybody who report to you or that you report to anybody. You might be a teacher. Coaching is about a relationship. It's about colleagues. It's about working relationships. All the skills I'm going to be sharing with you today is about building those working relationships. And the basic skills is to create rapport and connection. As you said, how do I create a connection? Sometimes virtually might feel impersonal. Sometimes it feels like it's hard to connect. It's hard to build that trust. So as we can all agree, right, coaching is influences, manager manages. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about that intrinsic motivation. Again, we cannot manage people. Everybody is all over the world. We don't know what they're doing. So we can motivate them and help them find their why. Like, why are they doing this? Like, what's at stake if we do this or if we don't do this? So I'm gonna be diving deeper into the skills. 3 core coaching skills. Again, as I said, they're coaching skills, they're conversational skills. That doesn't mean you're gonna go and coach somebody. And we always say, don't coach people without permission. Those are coaching skills to help you have a coaching conversation versus a manager conversation. The 3 skills we're gonna discuss today is articulate what's going on. Here's what I'm seeing. Levels of listening. I will introduce you to 3 different levels of listening and powerful questions. Those are the 3 skills. Here's a hypothesis. This is what we believe in Culture Crafters. Articulate what's going on. Listening and powerful questions create trust. So I'm gonna ask you in a chat window, and some of you have talked about it, like, why is trust important in your relationships right now? And as I'm waiting for the chat, I think these 3 skills will make it easier. And have an evaluation conversation. Having performance review is hard. Can we just all agree? It's hard. It's no matter how long you've been a manager, it's hard to have those conversations. Hopefully the skills will set up the stage, set the container, and help you make them much easier to connect with people. Kavita said, building trust is the only way you can influence the behavior. It creates a safe environment which fosters vulnerability. And due to economic situation in the company, trust is important now. Yes, it's the foundation of all great relationships. And I think also if we talk about, right, one-on-one, if we have trust, and I trust that you got my back, and that I trust that we're having this conversation, that you want to grow me as a leader, that you want to help me with my career, I will listen to you. If I don't trust you, I will be defensive. I will take everything as criticism. And we say, like, the criticism and shame has a very short shelf life until the person shuts down. And we've all been in conversations when the person, if we don't build enough trust, if we don't build enough container, it's really hard to alter the behaviors, because the people just go into the defensive mode. Well, that's not what I did. What I actually meant is this. What I actually did is this. And they just go into the defensive mode. Versus building trust helps us see, here's what I want for you. This is my dream for you. Here's what I see for you in the future. Don't ever underestimate taking the time to build that connection. Really take the time to see where the person is coming from. I think we have kind of dehumanized our working relationships. And the crisis right now is allowing us to bring humanity back. As someone says, it helps leveling people. Like, the humanity that we're all experiencing right now. We're all at home. We all don't have help. We're all homeschooling. We don't have support systems. Like, it really leveled us. And this is an opportunity to build that trust. Trust is psychological safety, the only way to connect people. Yes. Oh, I love, guys. You're all so participating and engaging in really what creates the experience. And we talked last week, if you listened to it or if you attended the webinar, it's about creating an experience. I can come in with an agenda, but we together create an experience. So what is articulate what's going on as a skill? Here's, in one sentence, I will show you this whole skill. When you are approaching, and again, I will keep going to evaluation, conversation, performance review, just because it's so relevant right now. But maybe you're not having performance review. You're just building relationships. You're having one-on-one. You saw somebody, someone did something, you're not happy, or maybe you are happy. with the person. The way it goes, if you can really master this one phrase, here's what I noticed, and here's the impact it had on the team. There are a couple of rules. It has to be very factual. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I saw you we had a meeting yesterday, 10 of us were on a video call, and I saw Nancy roll her eyes. And the impact it had on the team is that people, like I noticed a couple of team members shut down and stopped sharing anything. So here's what happened. This is a fact, and this is the impact it had on a team. This is your why. When we have performance review, I can't just tell you like, I want you to change your behavior. I don't like what you're doing. Here's what I need you to do. When having a meeting, the problem is I don't see their faces. Yeah, I understand, but this is one of the problems. If we can see like the behavior could be like comment, a passive aggressive comment in the chat. The behavior can be like, people never share anything. And that has an impact on the team, right? What creates trust and what corrodes trust? So it's not even about the body language. And it's always about the impact. Here's what I saw you do. This is the impact it had on the team. I want to talk a little bit about also positive. And the way it comes forward, right, in articulate what's going on, we want to create a positive environment. I know you can do this. I know, and I've seen you do this thing. What happened this time? Because here's what I've noticed, and here's the impact it had. So the positive is, I know what you're capable of. I know your strengths. I've seen you do this in the past. Here's what I noticed in the last month. Here's what I noticed in the last meeting. Here's what I noticed in the last presentation. And here's the impact it had on a team. So the language is super, super important and key. And again, put in a comment, guys, if you can see the value, or give us an example. I would love to hear some examples of a meeting that you had and what is the impact or something did, a behavior and the impact it had. So we can open it up and share a little bit. And this is very powerful, thank you. Right, because it takes it away from like, here's my experience of you. Here's what I see. And it's important to make it personal and factual, but the impact our actions have on other people is what's gonna create the atmosphere of like, wow. And trust me, if we have positive regard for our colleagues, I can guarantee you and promise you 99.9% of the time, people didn't know it had an impact. Just like we don't know the impact we have on people. We think that if I just come to a meeting, if I'm just here and I'm not saying anything, it's not gonna have an impact. Every action has an impact. And again, in the skills lab, we're gonna dive deeper into like, what is the impact? Because I do believe knowing what your impact is, having a self-awareness is a leadership skill. Knowing that anything I do, anything I say has an impact on people around me. Weekly team Skype meetings last week, I decided to do a recipe day for everyone who is staying at home and trying to figure out what to make. So what was the impact of making it that personal? I wonder, like, so that is an action, right? The behavior that went over well besides just the news. Yeah. I like it. So it's like, again, like here's an agenda, right? We just have the meeting. Nancy's saying like, we can find different ways to like connect with our team and see like what's landing, what's not landing, right? And then we can also debrief. What did you guys love about it? I also say like, have different people lead meetings and see like different styles and different ways of leading. In the skills lab, I will have another professional coach with me, one of my consultants on the team, and you will see the way she speaks has a different impact. The way she participates would have a different impact on the meeting, on the webinar. And it's kind of like scary, but every action we know has a reaction. And in the leadership world, it has an impact. Here's what I saw you do in the past is another language. Here's what I saw you do in the past. Here's what I have experienced with you. Describe and give the facts. Here's why we don't do that. I think, as I said, we think that often it's self-evident and it's not evident. People have no idea the impact they have on the team. I'll give you one example. Let's say you're invited to a birthday party and I am guilty of that. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be 50 people. Nobody's going to notice if I'm there or not. Well, it has an impact and people notice. It's like, but we're just not aware of what the impact is. That's also a good conversation to have with your team. If you ever feel like have a team activity, to figure out, and we can help you with that in the Skills Lab, what could be an activity for all of you to kind of share what impact different people or different behaviors have on our team, what helps us move forward, and what creates an atmosphere where we shut down. Okay, let's move on to the next skill, levels of listening. Here's why levels of listening is here. Once you have articulated what's going on, right? Here's what I saw you do. Here's the impact it had on a team. I know you're capable. Tell me what happened this time, right? This is where we open up a conversation for another person to share with you what actually was going on for them. And if you have built trust, and if you have built positive environment, right, knowing that they're capable, and you really like settle into that curiosity mode and say, hey, I'm really curious, like what happened that time in the meeting? Like the way you handled it was very different from what I've experienced in the past. This is where you need to open up to listening. This is why listening is really, really important. The 3 levels, I'm going to talk about the first one today, but there are levels, 3 levels. The one is listening on the self. It's all about me, 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 me. The other one, the second level of listening, is on the other. That's when I make it about you. And the level 3 listening is when you listen to everything. Somebody mentioned in the chat today, right? The body language. How they're the words they're using, right? When we talk, we have a Skills Lab too on like emotional. When we talk about emotional intelligence, we can talk a little bit about really helping you see the language of emotions. Like, what do emotions mean? When some people use certain words, what are they actually trying to say? And so you're listening to the story they're sharing. I like to say, like, are they coming from a story of a victim or a story of an overcomer? Like, there are people who are like, I can't do it, it's impossible, or here's what I tried to do. And I like people who try to micromanage, or they try to overcome obstacles. They try to solve problems all the time. So you can listen to the language, to the energy, to the space, again, as if you have a video, right? Or you're in the room, hopefully crisis will end, you'll be in the room. You're listening to impact it has on the room. What is happening with other people? So level 1 listening, I'll give you an example. Someone shares with you, again, we'll take the same example. My employee comes to me, or my colleague comes to me and says, Anya, hey, I was in a meeting yesterday, I was presenting, and Nancy rolled her eyes. And I jump in and I'm like, oh my God, that happened to me too. Let me tell you about what happened to me. And I just go into like my thing. We all have those friends. We all have experienced that, where no matter what you say, people manage to make it about themselves. Or you say, I'll have a salad. I'm like, oh, I should have a salad too. Notice, and I mean, we're all guilty of this. And again, if you catch yourself often in level 1, now that you know that you're, what is level 1, put a yes in the chat. I would love to see, because I am confident we all do that. Like level 1 listening, my child says something, my partner says something, my colleague says something. I'm like, yeah, me too. That happened to me. Listen to what happened to me. Here's how I did it. Here's what, you know, it's me, 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 me. Lift your eyes from the drama to the strategic. Love it, Sharon. So again, put in a chat, like, do you catch yourself often being in level 1 mode, or you're in a performance review, right? Someone is saying something, you're like, yeah, like, here's what I would do if I were you, or you're listening in the chat. Trust me, you're not with another person. You're not listening to another person if you're constantly in the me, 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 me mode. So this is one of the levels. And as I said, there's the other, and there's a global listening where you're listening to everything. And that is the hardest one. It takes time to practice. It takes time. Last week, again, we touched a little bit upon shifting space, reading the space, reading the energy. I've been a corporate trainer for many, many years, and it's a skill. Like, it's a really skill to develop, listening to people. And if you catch yourself listening on level 1, all you need to do is like, oh, wow, like, I'm really in my, like, here's what I'm going to make for dinner. Here's what I should do. This is where I meet. Just go back to the person speaking. One of the tricks I use personally, I've noticed when I became a coach, where in coaching, it's really important to listen. Like, deep listening is like core skill. And I'm like, I'm not good at listening. I would repeat what the other person is saying. I would just start repeating what they're saying in their mind. And as long as I'm repeating, I cannot have another thought. So you can practice it right now. As I'm speaking, try to repeat what I am saying to you after me in your mind. And when you're with another person, as they're listening, if you catch yourself like it's like meditation, right? You catch yourself going somewhere with your thoughts, you come back to another person. Sometimes like people go on and on and on, and it's hard to stay with them. So I start repeating what they're saying, and it helps me to stay present and listen to them. So let's go on. Powerful questions. So with powerful questions, again, like you will notice, and I'll touch it, like we keep building. You need to articulate what's going on, to open to listening. In order to ask powerful questions, you need to really listen. Here's what I deeply believe in. What makes a question really powerful is when you can listen to what the person is saying and then shift what they're saying into a question. So you can't pre-plan it. I'll give you an example. We all struggle with this right now. There's no separation between work and home life. I find that working with people, like everybody's working way more. Like I can't leave the office. I am at home. We're all working at night. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that. Your employee, your team member, your colleague comes to you and says, hey, like I'm really, really struggling with this. I really want to talk to you about creating more work and life balance, right? Instead of the powerful question, if you were really listening, would be, what would a work-life balance look like to you? Instead of, asking the question, okay, here's what I think you should do. Why don't you shut down your computer at 6 p.m.? If you're really listening, if you can use their own words, asking the question, talk to me, what would a work-life balance look like for you? And really listen to what do they see it, like how would they see it? Okay, you know what work-life balance would look like? I really shut down my laptop at 5. Okay, what do you think you need to do to be able to shut down at 5? See, I'm not telling them what to do. A good coach believes that the person has the answers within them. We need to ask them, because also if your employee comes up with their own answers, trust me, that's the intrinsic motivation. They are more likely to follow through if they came up with it versus you're like, well, why don't you just shut down your computer at 5? And a person was like, well, thanks. That was really useful. Like, what would help you? What needs to happen? What support do you need? That is a very different question. I also like to keep people kind of like in a way responsible. And if you need help, you ask me for help, because people are like, I need support. I need support. Here's a powerful question. What would support look like? And I guarantee you most people don't know. They don't know. And that's how we know it's a powerful question. If you can hear a person, and that's what I'm going to invite you to practice in the next week. If you can hear a person say, wow, like, I don't know, I never thought of it. Or, gee, give me a second. I need to think about it. Like for me as a coach, I'm like, I'm hitting the nail on the head. Like if they don't know the answer, that means like I'm really asking the powerful questions that will generate new thought process with them. So what's the difference? Tell me, what is the difference? What would you do if you had unlimited resources versus have you tried? I'm curious, again, put it in the chat. I'm curious, like if somebody asks you, what would you do if you had unlimited resources right now, especially now in this crisis mode, versus have you tried blah, blah, blah? Have you tried a new software? Have you tried hiring new people? What's the difference between these two questions? Makes people think out of the box. Yep. Open-ended, unlimited options does not limit their thinking. Yes, and exactly. Because have you tried, especially in the virtual environment? And again, guys, keep a comment in the chat, because we all have very different perspectives. We work in different industries. We work at different levels of organizations. There are 46, 48 people on the call. Like we all have very different experiences. So I'm really curious to know, like, what do you see? What does that open up? The first question gives you opportunity to explore. Yeah. Have you tried? What happens? What if you ask, have you tried? What happens when you ask a have you tried question? Have you tried? You know, advice is coming based on the other person's experiences. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Lana. That is not relevant to where you are, or you'll be like, yeah, thanks again. That's super useful. First question, empowerment. Yes, you actually have to process yourself. Yes. Also, the way I'm seeing, like, have you tried in the virtual environment? It will really, when you ask yes or no question, yes, I tried. Where do we go from there? Like, it's a shutdown. Every time the what question, as somebody says, it's an, we also know them as open-ended question, opens it to conversation, to curiosity, to listening, to more questions. Have you tried? The only answers is yes, I have tried, or no, I haven't tried. Yes, why didn't it work? Defense mode? No, I haven't tried. Why wouldn't you try? Again, like, it goes nowhere. And this is, again, if you've been doing it, this is how most of us have been doing it. So I just don't want you to feel like, oh my God, if you're on the other side realizing like, wow, I really need to up my game with powerful questions, right? Because you can see, like, that's what creates engagement conversation versus problem solving. The two big differences I see here is, have you tried as problem solving? What would you do if you had unlimited resources? I'm here for you. That's the trust building. Like, let's try. What would you do? What can we try? How can I help? What would you do? Like, I am interested in your input. I'm inviting you into a partnership. That is the biggest difference. I often talk about, be careful with the why questions. If you have a paper, put a sticky note. This is really important. Like, put a sticky note and try to turn every why question into a what question. Just like in the next week, try it with your kids. Try to, every time you notice yourself wanting to ask it or yes and question, do you, have you, why don't you? Try to ask the same question with the what. It's really a muscle. It's a practice. And I think you would benefit a lot if you really master this muscle. So I'm like, I hope, what's in it? This is, what are some examples of powerful questions you guys have received in your one-on-one meetings? Again, this is kind of like a skill building element. I would love for people to put in the chat, what are some examples of powerful questions you have received throughout your career that maybe really stood out, that made you think, that made you reevaluate things? What are you afraid of? Oh, Steve, yes, that's a hard one. What do you think? Exactly, right? It makes you feel like, wow, my opinion matters, my voice matters. They're actually, we hope they're actually curious. What are you afraid of? Yeah. Or what are you afraid will happen, right? Again, as I said, like, what is at stake here? Why can't we hire more people? I want to know, like, why was this question powerful for you? Why can't we hire more people? I'm curious, Leandra, what made this question powerful again for you? What else, guys? I'm sure you've all had a lifetime of experience. A question that stood out for you. Maybe you had a powerful one-on-one. Maybe you had a mentor in your life. One of the most powerful questions also is, what else? What else? What else? What else? It sounds like you're grilling somebody, but you will see how things open up that people haven't thought of yet. They're like, I don't know. And you give them time. Like, be okay, become okay with silence. It's especially difficult virtually. Like, silence can be really hard online. It's like everybody's in silence, but people are thinking, like right now, what motivates you? Yes, silence, super hard. Yeah, it is. It's, again, it's another muscle. But if it's a really powerful questions, people need to think, like right now, I want to give some time. I want you to reflect. What was a really powerful questions I have been asked or I have asked in the past? Julia said, what do you need to make this work? Reinforces trust, support, emphasizes willingness to try your idea by your leader. Yeah, I agree. What do you need to make it work? What's my value? Nancy said, yeah. Another question, what are you tolerating right now? It's a really powerful question. I remember one of my coaches asked me in the past, like, what are you tolerating? And you can ask that on the team. Like, what are the guys tolerating right now? Another tip I'll give you, there's this tool, it's called idea boards, where you can create sections and send it as anonymous link. And people will go and anonymously put things in. Because often, as someone said, right, like we feel vulnerable. It takes time to build trust. And this is why I want to invite you. It's really important to build trust. Because if people are not engaging, they don't feel safe. And that is a clue for you as a leader. People don't feel safe to share. Like there's something we need to work on our environment. We need to have more team meetings where maybe we design how do we want to be with each other. Again, listen to the last week's webinars. We talk about it a little bit. How do we design those agreements, team agreements? What would you like to change? And said, yeah. And again, giving people time. So idea boards helps you create sections. You can ask 3 or 4 powerful questions, send the link to all of your teammates, and they will all put kind of like, it's a sticky notes. It's like, imagine if you had a whiteboard in your office and everybody came in and put a sticky note. And what I also love about it, people can upvote it. If someone said like, here's what I'm struggling with right now, people can upvote it and you'll be able to see and kind of debrief it on a team meeting. So that's one of the tools I would love to share with you. So let me just go back. Thank you again, everybody, for putting the questions in. And I want to say, if you got really good at, here's my last powerful question, right before we go into kind of like a little bit of a skills lab. What do you think, if you got really good at these 3 skills, how would it change your working relationships? And I'm going to repeat them, right? First, we talk about building trust, and trust is built when it's a positive reinforcement. Here's what I've seen you do. Here's what I know you're capable of. Here's what my experience has been of you. Articulate what's going on when it comes to one-on-one is me saying, hey, here's what I've seen last week, or here's what I've noticed in the presentation. Here's the impact it had on a team. If you're someone who is preparing right now for those evaluation meetings, I really want you to think of each person on your team from a perspective of what impact does this person has on the team, their behavior, their attitude. I'll give you one more example. Someone is always late to team meetings, and it's the same person who is late. What would be the impact if someone is always late? What do you think that says to the rest of the team? And again, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm curious, how would you perceive it? Someone is late on our team meeting every day, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, not a long time. The meeting isn't important to them. Bad manners, yeah, they don't care. Not valuing my time. And again, a person might have no idea that's the impact they have. They're like, nobody's gonna notice. There are 15 of us, I'll be 5 minutes late. I have a reason. Or it can be a leader, right? Who's like, oh, I'll just give them time to chat. He thinks in his mind, I'm gonna be late so they can maybe chat with each other, having no idea. Not valuing my time. They don't have value. They don't value other participants. Poor time management. And again, just out of data impact, and I'm gonna call it like out of that assumption, how are we gonna be treating that person on our team? Now I can't trust you with the project. Like if I'm gonna try to avoid you, because I'm like, if I know you're like, let's say I'm gonna play it out for you, right? The role play, I do a lot of diversity and inclusion training on bias and assumptions. So here's an assumption. You're late to a meeting. I make an assumption that you don't value my time. Maybe I'm not important to you. Maybe this team meeting is important. Then what happens with the loop is I can't trust you. I'm going to try to avoid working on a team with you. I don't think I'm going to give you the really important project, because what if you're late with the delivery? Do you see how it just rolls on? While this person maybe had the best assumptions or had no idea of their impact. So poor time management. I'll question why the leader is not addressing this. Yes, their workload may be unbalanced. Great, Julie. I love that you have actually, we call it, I totally lost my train of thought. Like kind of like having a positive view on people, right? It's like, wow, what is happening with this person? This is an opportunity. Someone said in the beginning of this chat, maybe finding the reason to get in one-on-one. Maybe that is one of the reasons. Hey, I noticed you being late to a meeting and I really want to have a one-on-one chat with you and get curious. Maybe this person has one laptop and his kids are using it for school and he's ashamed, or she is ashamed to say that, hey, I'm sorry, but I need to be 5 minutes late because we're all sharing one laptop. Like, How can we, again, have positive regard for other people, open up? Remember, we talked about humanity. Open up a conversation with like, hey, here's what I noticed. Here's the impact. And I know that's not who you are. That has never been my experience of you in the office. What is happening for you? Do you see how that builds trust? All of a sudden, it opens up an opportunity for me to share with you maybe something personal and say, hey, like, I don't know how to talk about this, but this is what's been going on. Or I really struggle with virtual meetings. I really struggle with technology. I struggle with being on a video. Like, what is happening for this person? So I really love, see guys, this is the peer learning. I wouldn't even thought of talking about it. So there are two elements of it. One, sharing an impact, and maybe a person has no idea. Maybe they're intentional about it, but they have no idea of the impact. And a second, like really opening up to like, what is happening if it is consistent? So imagine how different would your performance review be if you really took the time to articulate what's going on, tell them about the impact it has, listen to them instead of listening to yourself and impact it has on you. What is happening for this person? Get curious about the person. And out of those curiosity, you have formed really powerful questions. What is it like to have one computer for 4 people? What support do you need? Who are the people on our team that could help you? Again, depending, like, you can plan those questions, but depending on what this person is sharing, you can form your questions and ask really powerful questions. So again, I'm sorry I went on a little trip there, but as you can see, I'm so passionate. If you learn the skills, it will change your working relationships. So my question is, if you got really good at these 3 skills, how do you think it would change your working relationships? I'm curious, like, what do you see would be the benefit of this? And Julia, thank you so much for bringing perspective of humanity and really getting curious what's happening for people. And I'm seeing some questions in the Q&A. Guys, feel free to go to Q&A, post a couple of questions, and it will, Nancy said, make them more positive and open, right? Like that's, remember how we started, and so many of you said, like, what differentiates coach from manager? They have trust. They're guide people. They empower people, like that intrinsic motivation. They help people see things differently. Because as I said, most people, like, that's the leadership competency. Being aware enough of the impact different actions and behaviors and words have on different people. That's a really important leadership competency. I'm wondering if it can shift trust to make a habit to notice the impact of positive behaviors as well, and use those 3 skills for recognition, not just chasing the negatives. Exactly. Yes, Lana. Others will follow my example. Totally. Here's another good point you're bringing up. We spend so much time on low performers. We want to help them. We want to build them. We want to spend time on them. Like, we have the best intention. We forget about our rock stars. We forget about people who are doing really well. We forget about people who are engaging, who are contributing, who have maybe adjusted so well. And I think it's so important to also spend some time. Maybe we can all agree to spend some time on people who are actually doing really well. They also need acknowledgement. They also need reinforcement. Like, just notice, and again, talk about the impact. Here's what I see you do so well, and here's the impact that it has on other people, right? It allows other people to be engaged. You create an atmosphere of trust. You brought to our team, like, let's say, someone shared, like, I shared a recipe and we all cook together. You bring that to our team. It might be just one of the employee, but if you're a good leader, you will notice those things and you will really, really help people see. Again, they might not know that the impact they have is this. Like, you are the person on our team who creates engagement. You bring humor to the team. Because sometimes also people play roles and we get so accustomed to roles. Like, we have a clown on the team. That person always makes us laugh. And we're just used to it. We love them, but I don't think we articulate that it's like, wow, because of you, like, our meetings are so much fun. And same goes for the Debbie Downer. Same goes for the negative. Like, who are the people who bring the meetings down every time or with the team? Again, they have an impact. They need to know. And that's what I think also a coach, I trust you will find the words to help that person grow and say, hey, this is not an attack. I just want you to know. You might not know, but this is the impact it has on the team. Here's what I've seen. Have you noticed, right? And what's your perspective on this? That's a powerful question. Like, here's what I'm noticing. Here's the impact it has. What's your perspective on this? And they will say, well, maybe I do that because I'm the only one who actually checks facts on every meeting, or I'm the only one who is strategic. You guys are always dreaming, but you're like, just get curious. Like, what is the perspective of this person? What is driving those behaviors? So again, if you found this 3 skills really valuable, next week we will have a skills lab, and I will ask Terry to talk a little bit about what is skills lab and why we have decided to create a skills lab, and then we'll spend some time on Q&A.
Perfect. Thanks, Vanya. Yeah, so we felt it was really important to take the time to offer practice with the coaches in these areas. So we have set up a skills lab that will take place next Friday from 2 to 4. And it's going to give you the opportunity to have a safe learning and practice environment to practice everything that Anya's talked about today.
I'm
and
going
really
to correct you for a second.
Yeah.
It's going to be 10 to 12. Sorry, next Friday it's 10 to 12 Eastern. But we will share, Terry will share a link later. Yeah, keep going. Sorry, Terry.
That's okay. I appreciate that. And we'll really deep dive into each of the skills learned. So you'll practice specific drills with each of the skills we talked about today with feedback. Feedback is so valuable and so helpful. And we often don't get that when we attend conferences and attend trainings. So this is where you're going to get that valuable feedback. And we'll create accountability partnerships. So you'll have a network of folks to stay in touch with and comment on the development of these skills as you go through it.
Mm-hmm. So the way we created the skills lab, next week it's open to public. So if you are like, let's say you just want to attend, that's why we created the safe space. If you have a team of manager, if you have a team of HR partner, a team of team leads, then you go through WorkTango. They'll arrange it for you privately, where me and my partner will come in and do a 2-hour skills lab for you privately. This next Friday it's only open for 20 people. It's a very small group of clients of WorkTango who will attend, and we'll do small groups and individual work with you guys. I'll go to the next slide. As I said, Terry, would you post a link in the chat for me, please?
Yes, absolutely.
It's going to be 10 to 12 next Friday. As I said, it's only 20 people. So if you feel like I need to practice, as I said, we'll create small breakout rooms, and that would be really valuable. And me and another corporate trainer will go in every single room and give you feedback and insights on practicing the skills. So I'm going to move into Q&A. You can ask. And first of all, I know everybody's like, okay, bye, I'm off. Thank you so much, guys, for participating, for engaging, for making this chat and making this session so alive. Thank you, WorkTango, for giving me this opportunity to share my expertise, my passion, my skills for bringing humanity back to organizations and creating culture crafters. We create human cultures, human and effective cultures. Thanks for this. It was a good session. Thank you so much, Steve. And for those of you who would like to stay for Q&A, feel free to stay, ask questions. This is where I'm going to try to address. Thank you, Lena. Appreciate it so much, guys, for contributing to making this session amazing. All your questions have definitely contributed and sparked new thoughts and new tips in my mind.
And Anya, I'll send out the recording as well as the slides today and the information on the skills lab later.
Awesome. Yes,
so everyone.
Yeah, and share it with your colleagues. If you think it's valuable, share it with your colleagues so they can listen to the webinar. And for all the also webinar attendees, if you're going to listen to it before next Friday, we did create a discount code. It's WorkTango for the skills lab. So if you are listening to this webinar and today or in the next week, there's a special discount code that we created. Okay, let me look at some questions. face-to-face, the group and individual does not share. How can I make the group and individual share, participate more on concerns and issues? So remember, I shared one of the things is create an anonymous idea board. I shared it with you. It's called idea boards with the Z. That's what we always say. Create an anonymous survey on SurveyMonkey. Send it to people. Create 3 or 4 questions. Ask people for their feedback. And then bring the whole, ask people to maybe upvote on idea boards, and then bring it to the meeting and say, hey, here's what I'm noticing. Here's what a lot of you said. Here's what's happening in the team. Once you're able to see the themes that people are expressing, then you can say, okay, what do we need on the team to feel more safe? Here's your powerful question. Put it in. What do we need for all of us to feel more safe? What is my role as a leader? What is our role as team participants, right? Again, next week, I think in this skills lab, actually next Friday, we're going to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence and emotions. Like, how do we like create that trust and read emotions? Because it's like, what's happening for people? Why do they not feel safe? And what are some toxic behaviors on a team? One of the things could be gossiping, back channeling. So we're going to dive a little bit into like the emotional component of like, why do people not feel safe? So hopefully that helps. That would be my first suggestion. Go to idea boards, create anonymous 3, 4 questions. Don't make it 20, make it like 3 questions. Here are like 3 questions. What are the challenges? What can we do about it? What support do you need? What are some, like, how can we create these team agreements on our team? What do you guys need? Invite them again, like a coach invites people to take responsibility. Like, this is, I think, the biggest difference between coach and manager. Manager tells you what to do. Manager is like, here's the project. The coach is like, what are we all gonna do? So it takes away you, like all the responsibility from you as a leader and creates that partnership. This is our team. This is our project. This is like, it's not on me. Like we co-create. Like today we co-created this session with all of you guys. So I would invite and start using the language of co-creation and partnership and ask your people, like, what do you guys need? How do you think we can create more trust on our team? What's missing? So Leandra, I hope this is helpful, and you can put something in the chat or put another question. Another question is, I'm curious for tips on how managers are helping or inspiring with employees who are really struggling through isolation and coronavirus. So this is kind of, I'll try to make it short, but again, as I said, we will have a webinar because this is so relevant right now on emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize emotions, articulate emotions, and normalize them. Right? And this is where people feel seen and heard. If we can see each other on a video, give people voice. That's what, if you give people voice, that's what helps them be seen and heard. So I think as a leader, again, get curious. What is happening? What are they feeling? What is the struggle? What is the challenge? Normalize it for them. Help them articulate it. Help them process and just be honest. I think like I can just be honest, like I'm really struggling with isolation. And then what does support look like? What help do they need? Like who do they feel close with on a team? Some will need more one-on-ones or team meetings. Some people will need less. As a coach, get into this one-on-one conversation with them, articulate what you're seeing, get curious with them, ask them questions, and help them really identify what is it that they're struggling with. What is the component? Maybe they need to work at night instead of in the morning. What are some, I don't know if you guys have that capacity, but get curious. I would say get curious and help them process what is happening for them. Because you know, when you're struggling with depression, when you're struggling with anxiety, again, we'll talk about it on the emotional intelligence class, you're so stuck in your thoughts and you're so stuck in your own loop, it's really hard for you to come out of it. And I think a good coach and a good team lead, a good manager, if you can help them through powerful question, kind of dig a little bit deeper, like what is going on and what support do they need, what will help them. And then another question, so I'm curious for tips. Okay, I've answered that. They just keep quiet. Well, that's the question. So next webinar, next week, we're gonna talk about how to create trust and psychological safety on a team. there's no trust. If they keep quiet, I mean, I would try anonymous board, but if they keep quiet, then we need to kind of go back into how do we create trust on the team. People don't feel safe. If people don't share, they don't feel safe. That's all I got for all of you guys, unfortunately. And please know that it takes a lot of I don't know, skills and practice and language and your own developer as a manager, because I'm sure you were not prepared for this role. You were not ready to lead teams remotely. We always were in the office. It was much easier. So this is why we're doing these sessions, to help WorkTango customers and clients to really develop that language, emotional intelligence, language skills, to really help you guys to build the trust, to help you guys work with teams remotely, help you have one-on-one. And next week, I hope you can join us. If not, listen to the recording, come to the skills lab. We will be able to work more with you one-on-one. I'd be happy to help. There's no short answer. We need to all of us, we need to create trust on our teams. I don't see any more questions, so I'll give a couple more minutes. It's 12:58. Feel free to leave the webinar. If you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I see a lot of thank yous. Thank you guys, big time for co-creating. Yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to WorkTango. They will be able to connect you with us. We'll be happy to come to your specific team. If you need to design that alliance, Leandra, if you are struggling, you're like, we need you guys to come in and help us design the alliance on our team, help us with trust building, we can definitely help you with that. We're all in this together virtually. We also have been doing a lot of work in person, and now we're doing virtual. So I get it. I feel you. Sounds like there are no more questions. Again, thank you so much. We're going to stop the recording, and I hope we'll see you next Thursday on how to build trust and psychological safety.
Thanks, Anya. We'll see you then.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.